Awesome! Brought to you by Kenya Engineer, Institute of Engineers of Kenya, Liwa, and Rhino Cement. Housing is a basic need from our homes to offices. Buildings house people and businesses in the modern world. It's very true and applies for Kenya. The fates of construction and building industries have ebbed with the performance of Kenya's economic situation. The decision on where to settle is linked to one's economic status. Your importance in the society is determined by the kind of house that you occupy. Therefore, housing has a central importance to the quality of life with considerable economic, social, cultural, and personal significance. Kenya's population continues to increase. The search for a better life has led to massive migration to urban centers. The constant migration has led to a high rate of urbanization, increased poverty, and escalation of housing costs and prices. The grim reality has resulted to the emergence of slums known for the squalid conditions. Has this always been the case? The answer is no. The government has made deliberate efforts to strengthen the institutions responsible for housing through a legislative framework for the effective coordination, regulation, and monitoring of the housing and human settlement sector.
The old housing estates, like the ones owned by the city council, Bahati, Kaloleni, Jericho, they need to enter into arrangements with the private sector. They invest the land, the private developer comes in and puts up modern houses because that's very prime land. I mean, Chaulimo is 5 minutes away from the CBD. So that you can put up modern, high-rise developments that would ensure that the housing stock in this country is increased, because the gap in terms of housing stock available is growing by the day. And that's why we are having a challenge of slums. And of course, you cannot rely 100% on the private sector, because the private sector, of course, is profit driven. You need to ensure that the public sector can come in, put up houses which are more readily affordable to the common mwananchi, put up infrastructure, and they put up houses which are not far from the central business district, so that people don't have to commute for many kilometers to come into town.
Names such as Ngei, Otiende, Onyonka, and Ayani are among Kenya's leading nationalists, and to the residents of Lang'ata, these names are institutions unto themselves. Back then, the country's population was a little over 9 million and growing at a rate of 3% annually, with an urban population requiring only 7,600 housing units annually.
We have to provide housing for our population, and engineers have to play a very big role. Because of the shortage of space in our cities, we need to think of going into storage buildings. And those are a little bit tricky unless you've got good engineering designs. It cannot work. So engineers are busy looking at how we can be able to get many people accommodated in the areas that's available without wasting a lot of space. Also to provide drainage, to prevent sewers, and to ensure the comfort of the people. And furthermore, to decongest the cities in terms of looking for alternative transportation methods rather than using vehicles all the time. We are working on ways of making sure that the city of Nairobi, for example, there is communication system like the train service, the underground railway service, which is being thought about, so that people can easily move. And as the city grows, the engineers will be called upon to use their knowledge, their innovation to ensure that people have comfortable lives. Because you must bring into this world something which is new, but which is also going to benefit the population.
The government saw the need to promote thrift and home ownership through providing affordable mortgage facilities to citizens. From this, institutions such as the Housing Finance Company of Kenya, currently known as Housing Finance, was formed in 1965 to enforce the government's mandate. Despite the effort by government and financial institutions to turn Kenyans into homeowners, many people are still living in bad conditions. Experts say this is because many of the homes are beyond the average Kenyan. Housing stakeholders have attributed this to lack of supportive infrastructure like roads and sewerage systems that increases the cost of finished homes, hence making it unaffordable to a majority of Kenyans. This situation has seen only the rich owning homes. In an attempt to bridge the gap, the government has an ambitious project to house its citizens. The government's intention being to come up with inventions to address issues such as shelter, infrastructure, land tenure, and utilities. One of these projects is the Kenya Slum Upgrading Program, whose goal is to improve the livelihood of millions of slum dwellers by the year 2020. The project has seen engineers and various stakeholders coming together to improve the overall livelihoods of people living and working in slums. In the last 10 years, Kenya has experienced a housing boom bolstered by economic growth, a growing middle class, and the increased road and utilities infrastructure. This demand for residential and commercial houses has led to other advancements in the building and construction sector, and architects and engineers have had to adopt modern, less costly methods.
You have heard about the Konza City that is coming up. That is going to be really a center of new technologies in this particular country. And this is because we believe that as we develop as a country, first of all, even in addition to getting income to a country, we must also give our people skills. Because in this is the world has become a village through communications. And you don't need to work in Kenya, you need to work all over the world. And therefore what has happened is that we in Kenya have adopted to technologies as they develop across the world. There are new technologies now which are used to build cheap houses, but without spending a lot of money. And these have been brought in, and there are projects going on in Earth River, some of them are being built there, to ensure that we can give our people cheaper accommodation that they can afford.
Ideally, every housing unit needs to be structurally sound, accessible, have good sanitation, access to utilities, and to be environmentally sustainable. The housing sector in Kenya plays a critical role in economic growth, wealth creation, and employment. The government has not excluded the private sector, which is responsible for the larger part in providing housing for both citizens and foreigners.
The private sector has done a lot in terms of housing development. I think what we need to see is corresponding input from the public sector. We need to see the government, whether it is national government or county government, coming in and saying, since we have put up houses in Kawasukari or Zimmerman, let us go in there, put up the roads, put drainage, put sewer system, put water supply, put street lighting, so that those developments have been put up by private developers, then they become modern housing estates.
The real estate industry in Kenya is registering a growth each year as more people invest in both houses, real estate management, and even online services to help people find housing easier. Now, some of these online platforms such as Nsoko, Property Leo, and OLX, among others, bring ICT to the housing sector in Kenya. This housing estate next to the ocean is the epitome of modern housing luxury.
It's a property that is sitting directly across from the heritage of our country, and we are sitting across the famous Fort Jesus, the old port, and the entire Mombasa Old Town skyline. It was necessary to do something with the public component so that everybody in Mombasa, every Kenyan, every tourist, every visitor to Mombasa can come and enjoy this view and enjoy the ambience. We are the first marina between Cape Town and Cairo. Egypt has got a couple, South Africa have a few. It will have east coast of Africa's first boardwalk, first marina, and first restaurant in the sea. First service marina on the east coast of Africa. This is going to invite a completely different clientele to Kenya. We are actually placing Kenya in a league that we haven't gone anywhere near. This is a game changer for Kenya.
Apart from the scenic ocean view and marina status, the houses have been constructed using the latest technology in building and environmental conservation.
It was therefore a no-brainer for us that we've got to make this development as green as we can. You know, they're saying that the next big shortage in the world is going to be fresh water. We're going to struggle with fresh water. All the wastewater from English Point, every shower, toilet, every tap will go into biodigesters. Today we have technology in the world that can treat water, and once it's gone through the biodigester, water emerges completely clear and no smell. And if you keep processing it, you can even drink it.
This does not compromise the aesthetics. The houses are furnished with the latest interior design materials and serviced under international standards. This is a home worth living in, even for a day. Unfortunately, only few Kenyans can afford these lavish homes. Engineers, keen on addressing this issue, have been continually working to improve the quality of materials with the intention of reducing the cost of putting up a house while retaining high-quality houses that are environmentally friendly. The efforts to introduce prefabricated houses, which are manufactured in factories and assembled on-site. It is expected that these houses will revolutionize the Kenyan building sector and replace brick and mortar houses. The challenge with prefabs, as they are called, is that many Kenyans do not trust them and consider them inferior to brick and mortar houses. There is need for a sensitization campaign and information sharing to help Kenyans and developers understand and appreciate this technology.
When you look at again the supply side of housing, there's a whole area again around the sort of construction methodologies that we're still carrying out in this country, and still building with very expensive brick and mortar, very deep foundations, which are really not necessary for a country like ours, and looking and exploring various alternative building technologies. We see this as a rapid and more affordable, easier to maintain sort of solution, especially when we look at the counties and look at their needs. They need housing, they need offices, they need stalls, you know, there's so much they need. If you go the traditional way, it's going to take years and years and years, and it'll cost a lot. Because again, remember, time is money. So there are various innovative technologies, both locally created, so like soil blocks, building blocks, and others that have been imported. And these are technologies that have been tried and tested in the East, in the West, in Europe for many, many years, and stand the test of time. But we just need to also educate our people on the durability and quality of these technologies.
It is estimated that the current production of new housing in the urban areas is only 20 to 30,000 units annually, giving a shortfall of over 120,000 units per annum. This shortfall in housing has been met through the proliferation of squatter and informal settlements and overcrowding. To keep up with the steady housing demands, numerous unscrupulous contractors have come up. The so-called cowboy contractors have flooded the sector, resulting in poor workmanship and non-compliance to specifications. The effect has been the collapse of buildings, often occasioning loss of life, poor infrastructure, and delayed completion of works, leading to project cost overruns and stalled projects. The National Construction Authority Bill is expected to streamline this sector.
Engineers are on, even with their beautiful designs and knowledge, will not give you the end product, which is the infrastructure. We need contractors. And I'm very pleased that the National Construction Authority has really taken root in terms of managing and regulating the construction industry. That is a very welcome move, that now contractors are registered by a central body, which is able to train, regulate, and even create opportunities for road contractors. So the growth of the NCA, National Construction Authority, is a very welcome move, because it's going to contribute immensely to the growth of the construction industry in Kenya.
Over the years, we've also established some collaborations and partnership with the professionals, like the latest being with the National Construction Authority, which is authority mandated to control the activities of the contractors. And we signed a contract with them, sort of contract where we are going to award the best woman contractor in the year. You realize that a lot of people are doing works just for the pay, but this authority will try to check. So in partnership with ARM, we are going to reward the best contractors in the country. We've gone through the country, training contractors, 2-day seminars. We engage them and teach them the basics, because these are the people who make the product which are given by the architects and the engineers in drawings. They are the ones who create this to be what it is, the buildings which you see, the beautiful building, the roads. They're the people who make it to be. So if they don't do a proper job, it will be terrible. You get all these issues of buildings collapsing. You get all shoddy works which are being done, poor workmanship. So ARM has taken it as a responsibility, as a stakeholder, to continuously engage these people.
With the creation of new counties, the housing sector is expected to continue this positive growth as the demand for more housing and creation of new urban areas crop up across the country. It is important for both the government officials and developers to work together to prevent historical mistakes that have plagued mature cities like Nairobi, Mombasa, and to some extent, Kisumu.
As infrastructure developments continue to pick up in this country, and especially as we devolve and we start seeing more and more activities happening in the counties, definitely I think we now start finding a shortage of the sort of engineering skills that we're looking for. So education, training and focus on that sector and getting enough qualified, whether they be fully qualified engineers or even qualified artisans, to be able to support the expanded infrastructure is very important. The Constitution empowers the county governments to set up their own laws for their counties and pass them through their respective parliaments. So we're currently working with about 7 counties and helping them come up with some of the legislation that would be needed, and especially in the area of forming sort of like housing corporations or development corporations. And with that also comes the necessary urban planning. So something that we are proactively trying to get involved in. Where it's even more challenging is in already existing cities and towns within the country, like Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu. We've already seen that urban sprawl taking place. Now to reverse that is a major challenge. It's a major challenge, and it also comes with a lot of social and political impact.
English Point fits in hand in glove with that whole vision that we have. This is what we need in Kenya. This is what will drive development. This is what will drive investments. And this is what will drive a certain economy, and that's the tourism, the boating world. So I think we will have a lot more marinas. The market, we're putting in a marina with 40, 50 spaces for boats. I think we have a market for 2,000 boats here. A lot of people will follow the marina theme and will create their own little marinas around, so that we have a whole marina circuit.
As the sector continues to grow, there is need to train and develop skills of artisans and other professionals within the sector. This will help with the transfer of knowledge on the latest skills and technologies while creating employment for millions of Kenyans across the country. Part of this will include addressing low-income housing to prevent the mushrooming of slums. There will also be need to set aside space for parks, playgrounds, schools, and other social amenities. In the end, the citizens will also need to work together to build their own communities by contributing towards aesthetics and infrastructure.
In the next 10 years to come, I do expect that we are going to have safer and greener buildings coming up in our cities. Safer in the sense that both in utilization and in occupation, I do expect that they will be designed in a better way and in a manner that people can easily get out of the place if there's a problem, or there are warnings about if there's a disaster pending. Secondly, I believe that the greener buildings is going to be the technology of the future, and I think it will be achieved. It's already started, and I think it will be fully achieved. This means you've got a building, it is going to be green and smart. Smart in the sense that it's a building where, for example, it can be self-sustaining in terms of energy and in terms of quality of life in those particular buildings. For example, we believe that there's no reason why we should be able to be having lighting in buildings during the day. I think that really is something that we should try to do complete away with. Because if there's natural light like we have in this country, why should we be putting the lights on? Putting on the lights on means that we are consuming more energy. And of course, depending on the sources of generation of that energy, you know what that means to the economy. So if we can save energy in the buildings that we occupy, both in the cities and in homes, I think that will be a step forward in the development of technology. So I expect to see safer and greener buildings.
Awesome! Brought to you by Kenya Engineer, Institute of Engineers of Kenya, Liwa, and Rhino Cement.